So because I'm working off my hotspot on my phone now, if I start to sound choppy at all, just put something in chat for me and then I will turn off my video. That will sometimes help, but I did want to leave it up as long as I possibly could so I could say hello to all of you. I'm so glad you have been able to join us this evening. We are here to kind of go a little deeper with Formative and really help you be able to use Formative to the next level by adding content that you have already in your classroom that you're using and adding it to Formative. So I'm excited to be able to share these with you tonight. If you have on your laptop or your computer a document, whether it be a PDF, a Word document, or a Google slide deck or a PowerPoint, I'm going to give you opportunities to add those tonight. So you are welcome as we go to just watch. This is being recorded and you can just watch us and review it later. It will be shared to our training site, which I'll share with you at the end. Or if you prefer, you can watch me on one screen or in one window and then toggle over as I give you some time to try things out. So please be aware that you are welcome to do either. If you could just put in chat for me real quick, just let me know your name and your grade levels so I know who's in the room this evening. Great. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Ruth. Perfect. All right. Great. Well, at least I know people can hear me. That is important. All right. As I said, my name is Eva. I am a former teacher. I've taught 2nd through 8th grade, and then I became a secondary instructional reading coach and literacy coach. I currently live in Central Florida, but I have lived all along the eastern seaboard of the United States. And I am the mom of 3 kids. It's a little bit about me. Excited to have all of you here with us tonight. As I said, this is going to be recorded. It'll be about 30 minutes long. Some of the content that we talk about it depends on where we veer off to, but some of it may only show up for those of you who have a partner or a premium subscription. So if you are using our free version, I'm so glad you're here tonight. Much of what we're showing you tonight is available to those who have the free accounts. But if you see something and you go, I don't have that ability, that's probably why. So just wanted to make you aware of that. Feel free to type questions in chat and I will be keeping that open on my other screen here so that I can monitor that as well. All right, so here's what we're going to cover. We're going to talk about adding a PDF or a Word document first. I'll walk you through that, give you some time to try it, and then we're going to try a PowerPoint or a Google slide deck. And if you could take a moment and just share with me in chat, what is your biggest need tonight? What is it that made you join this session? It would be helpful for me to see what your thoughts are about what you need to walk away with. Okay, great. Step by step. Perfect. Nelson, if I can show you the TeacherBased, if we have time to do that, I definitely will. Keep those responses coming. Practical. Great. Okay. And that way I can kind of try to get to as many of your needs as possible tonight. All right. So let's dive in. I would love to have those of you who want to try this with me log into your Formative account. If you just want to watch, that is totally fine too. So for those of you who want to log in, you can go to formative.com, click the login. If you see my dashboard in the top right corner, that means you're already logged in. So you can just click on my dashboard. It's formative.com. And then depending on how you log in, whether through single sign-on or through your email, you can go ahead and do that and log in that way. One tip for those of you who are beginners, we won't have time to go into the reasons behind this, but do not use both Google and Clever. Don't try to do both of those at the same time. If you do, you may end up with 2 classes. So if you tend to use Google Classroom more, stick with Google. If your email is attached to that Google, stick with Google. We can cover that in another session, but just wanted to give you that tip there. Okay. Once you are in, your dashboard, of course, looks something like this. Now, for those of you who are brand new, if you have never logged into Formative before, there may be some things that I'm going to share with you that you're like, wait, I didn't know that. We do have a brand new getting started with formative training every single month. Our next one is coming up, I believe, on March 3rd. It will be on our website. And we can double check that date before we get off the call. But we have one of those every month, and we also record those. So if you're brand new to Formative, you have no idea, you've never seen what I'm showing you on my screen tonight, I encourage you to go back and watch that. That's about 25 minutes long. But for those of you who've been in here before, you know that the formatives that I've created are down the left-hand side. My classes are across the top, and I want to create a new formative. So I'm going to click on this plus new formative button. And as you know, you can put your title in here with some instructions. So I'm going to call this tonight my figurative language quiz. And I'm going to use my little drop down here to tell my students to complete the quiz for credit. I could, if I wanted, add over here. If you've never noticed this little blue plus button, this little blue plus button is magical. You can add all sorts of things here, including reading these directions aloud for your students if you wish, or just adding an image here. So I'm just going to put an image of a heart. Notice I just am searching an image right from Google. I'm just going to add an image right there. So now I've got my directions. Now here's where we're going to add that PDF. So right up here, I've just added my title, my directions. I'm going to click this plus sign. Whenever you click the plus sign, this is how you can add content or questions to a formative. Many teachers, when they start out with Formative, start out simply by adding multiple choice questions, maybe true, false, and then short answer. Those are the three most popular ones that we see first. The blue are all of our question types. And as you work in Formative, you're going to get more and more comfortable with these. And I can show you later today where you can access some information on how each of these question types work. If you are an ELA teacher and you're looking for essay questions, that is the free response question right here. The red is content that you want your students to interact with. So it could be an audio file, it could be something that you embed. What we're going to be focusing on tonight is the one that's in yellow. Now I'm going to bet, because we're running a little test right now here at Formative, we often do things to see what is more intuitive to teachers. So some of you will have this yellow enhance a PDF doc image or Google Doc down here below. If you are using our free version, or if you have a premium subscription, you might not see that, but instead you'll see a red document button over here. It's the exact same thing. So you can use either one to add the PDF. So I have a PDF of a quiz that prior to COVID, I would hand out to my students. They would take it on paper. I want to put it onto Formative. So I'm going to do that by clicking this Enhance a PDF doc, this yellow part here, or by the document button here. When I do that, notice I get these options. Now you can upload a picture. You can upload a document. You can take a photo using your camera on your computer. You can pick something from a Google Drive, which we'll do in a little bit. You can also search for something, but I have this document on my computer ready to go. So I'm going to just open up my things here. And here's my figurative language quiz. Now, if you have, you can on some, you can just drag it over, or you can double click it. Let me close that out. And hopefully this will not take too long being on my hotspot to open up. There we go. And now I'm going to add this. Now anything I add gets added as an image, and I can put questions right on top of it just by clicking on it. Or if it's a document that I don't want a question in a particular place, like on here, I want this first question to be right here, the second question to be right here. But maybe I have a paragraph, a primary source that I want my students to read. And I don't want them to answer a question here and then here and then here. I want them to answer a question about the entire thing. In that case, I could add a question over here. So let me show you the difference. So I'm going to add a question here by clicking that plus button. And I'm going to just I'm going to create a short answer question. And I'm going to say, what is this quiz about? Now it's about the entire document, so I'm just going to put it over there. And the correct answer might be poetry. It could also be figurative language. By adding in my answer choices here, I'm helping Formative with auto grading to save me time. And of course, I could tag it to standards if I want down below. If you don't have standards there, those can be added. You'll see this plus new standard set and you can add them. But if you don't have them for now, don't worry too much about it. Let me show you what this looks like from the student view so you can see this part first. I'm going to click on my little preview over here, this little eyeball. And I like to pull this out in a separate tab, so I'm going to do that. So here is my student view, I'm sorry, my teacher view. And here's what it looks like from the student. So I have my first question. Here's my quiz. Now I know that seems kind of small, but notice this zoom in button right here. Your students are able to zoom in, and right up in the top right corner, very faintly, you might not be able to see it over the zoom, but there's an X here, or they can hit escape to exit out. So they can zoom in and out as many times as they want to take this. All right, let me come back over here and I'm going to add some questions right on the document to show you how this works. I'm going to now, I want to add a question right here. So I'm going to leave this as my first question. I'm going to add a question right here, and all I have to do that is click right where I want that question to be. And I'm going to make this a multiple choice question because it's a multiple choice question on the quiz. It's covering up a few of my words here, so I'm just going to click on it and move it over. There we go. Now, I do not have to retype this question because remember, my students can zoom in and zoom out. So I don't need to retype the question and the answers. All I need to do is enable auto grading by selecting the correct answer. And I can add as many questions to my document as I wish. So I'm just going to put in, and I can even change the questions. So let's say this question here, I'm tired of doing multiple choice. I want my students to think a little bit more. I'm going to ask them in a short answer question to tell me, why is the answer alliteration? Whoopsie, would help if I spelled that correctly. Alliteration. I still didn't spell it correctly, did I? Here we go. There we go. Here's how this looks on the student side. So I've got my questions over here, my answers over here, and my students can zoom in and zoom out to select as many as they like. Now you can do this same process for a document. So let's say that I wanted to add another document right below. You can upload a Word document this way. So I'm going to just upload, let's do this human heart diagram here. And you can do the same process for any Word or PowerPoint documents. I'm sorry, or PDF documents. I'm going to give you a minute to try this. Try adding some questions so that you can try it out. You'll run into a couple of questions as you go. I do want to tell you one common thing that happens to teachers when they are trying to upload a Word document or a PDF. And that is that they are told that the upload isn't working, nothing is happening. So something that could be happening here. If you are uploading something that was shared with you and it's in a shared Google Drive, we may not have access to that Google Drive folder. So in that case, try making a copy of it to yourself and then putting it on Formative from there. Another possible reason is if you are a Mac user, those text edit files, they're often labeled as PDFs by Google Drive, but they're not actually PDFs. So you might need to download the file, actually save it as a PDF, and then try uploading it again. And then the third reason would be if it's too big. So when you are uploading something, we have right here in small print here, it tells you some of the files that are supported, but it also tells you it has to be less than 25 MB in size. So go ahead and take a couple of minutes, try that out. If you don't have a document that you want to try this with, if you don't have one right there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in chat for you a link to our help article with the step-by-step so that you can review the steps that I just shared with you. And as you try it or as you review, feel free to put any questions in chat. Nelson, that is a fantastic question. We actually have a session coming up at the end of this month designed for world language teachers. So you might be interested in that session. It's all about using Formative for world language. I am going to also put in chat for you an article that you might be interested in. It does talk about some ways to help students get those accent marks in. One of the easiest ways is for them to have the Spanish keyboard added to their computer, which is a pretty simple thing to do. I won't be able to show you that tonight, but this article will help walk you through that. Stephen, that's a great question. Will the chat log be available with the recording? I don't know. I don't know if we are able to do that. Diego, if you have the ability to answer that, if you know, let us know, that would be great. Okay, if there are 13 images as part of the download, but I only want one of the images, is there a way to just keep one of the images? Ruth, that is a fantastic question. What I recommend is that you chop that image out. You can take a screenshot of it before you upload it. We are, at this time, we don't have the ability to chop it as you're uploading. So you want to kind of do that prior. There are some things you can do for questions and things that you could move around, but not for after you upload. Okay, great. All right, let me show you a couple of other things really quickly. So some of you might want your students to actually write on the document and not just upload it and put questions on top. So I'm going to show you with any of our question types. I'm going to choose short answer just because it's such a great and popular type. So I'm going to put an example question right here. And then I'm going to toggle this show your work feature on. Now notice this box pops open that says edit background. If I click on that as the teacher, I can now upload an image to this background and allow my students to write on it. So for example, right over here, I've got this little square that looks like the mountains, my image icon. If I click on that, I get the exact same thing I had a moment ago. So now I'm going to upload a document and I'm going to put in that human heart diagram right here. And it will show up in the background. My students can write on it, they can type on it. If you're an ELA teacher or a Spanish teacher and you're having them read something, a paragraph, and you want them to highlight or cite evidence on the text or circle verbs in the Spanish language, or you can have them do that right here. So you can put something on the background. It will show up for your students like this. Now my students can go in and they can set the highlighter here. I've got it set already so I can highlight if I wanted to. Let me just highlight this. My students can write on it if they wanted to. I'm going to change my color and make it actually writing here so I can click right here. Oh, that's a little big, but I'll just type so as an example. And then when they save it, you will see their work. So if you want them to write or work right on top of the PDF, you can add it to a show your work field. And that field exists on every one of our question types so that you can always toggle that on. All right, I want to show you how to upload a PowerPoint or a Google slide deck. Either one will work. I'm going to click on this plus sign again. And I'm going to go straight back to that yellow Enhance a PDF or to the document if you don't have that yellow. This time I'm going to pick something from my Google Drive. If it's a PowerPoint, I would just choose the upload document again. So I'm going to try something from my Google Drive. And I'm going to pull it from over here. Oh no, not Athens. I want to go with the Nile River. I've got one in here about the Nile. Let's find that. Here we go. Now I'm going to click on this document. And yes, I'll come back to that question. That's a great question in the chat. I'll come back to that. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to select it. Now here's something to know. When you do this, it's going to upload every slide as a separate question, as a separate slide within Formative. And so you can turn this, I'll show you in a minute how you can have this turned on so your students see only one slide at a time, okay? Now notice it all uploads. So again, if there's a slide you don't want, remove it before you upload it here. I'm going to add all 10 images, and they are added as images. So that's important to know, because if I had a link right here to the important uses of the Nile, and it had a link to a video that I wanted my students to watch, this has been added as an image. But I can add that video over here. I can click that little plus button. I can click video, and I can say Nile River. Notice I don't even have to go to YouTube. I can just search YouTube right from here. Here's the one I wanted them to watch. And now that video will show up right next to the slide. So each one of these I can add questions to, I can have my students interact with, I could have them do a quick audio response question where I ask them to read this aloud to me and they have to respond. So all of these here you can add questions to. Now, I want to show you, I know we didn't quite have time. I want to make sure I get to answer some of your questions. For those of you who want to try that while I'm still here, go ahead. But I do want to show you how you can assign these in different ways. I'm going to click on this assign right here. Now we have a lot of stuff on here, so it's going to look kind of funny when I assign it, but I'm going to go ahead and assign it to my guest students. Now the reason I'm assigning to guest students is because I don't have an actual class. You will never assign to guest students unless you're trying to present something to parents. You will always be assigning to a class, okay? So the way I'm going to log in tonight as a student is not the way your students will log in. Now notice you do have this thing that says TeacherBased Mode. TeacherBased Mode means that as a teacher, I will control when the student sees the next question or the next slide by clicking on it. And they will not advance until I click to advance. So that is one great option. I do love the idea of chunking for all of my students. And so if I wanted to chunk this so that every single question or item is on a separate page, I can toggle that on right here. Now you have all these other different things here that you can play with. Just so you know, for those who've been asking about this, this is currently in development. It's on my screen because we're a part of Formative. It's supposed to be released this quarter, so stay tuned for that mode to be coming sometime this quarter. But I'm going to go ahead and assign this in this separate page view. And I've got my code here, and I'm going to log in separately as a student so that you can see what this will look like. Formative.com/join. Remember, your students will never do it this way, but if you ever have parents and you want to do something for a parent night, you can do the same thing. Formative.com/join, assign it to guests and give them a guest code. And now here's my Formative. So notice here that my student sees this. The questions are across the top here. They're kind of chunked. So all of the questions that were here on my document are now over here. So I can zoom in and zoom out as needed to answer these questions. And then as the student, I can move forward as I want to move forward. All right, let me take some of your questions that are in chat. Is there a way to reduce the font size and show your work? Absolutely. Let me go back to that. Yeah, I showed that kind of quickly. So, and we have a student tutorial video on YouTube to show students how the Show Your Work feature actually works. Let me come back over to it. If I wanted to do something as a student, let me show you as a student, it works the same way as a teacher. But if I'm in here and I'm wanting to do something as a student, let me just erase this here. So I am going to change my ink color to be this. The bigger the box here, the bigger the font. So if I want to, this would be the highlighter, this would be the pen. If I want to make it a smaller size font, I just click the thinner line. I click OK. And when I click here, let me click on my letter. Now I want to type. Now it will make it smaller. Okay, great question. If you add a video directly from YouTube, does it include the ads that are on YouTube? No, it doesn't, which is why I love adding them to Formative. So that's a great question. Yes, TeacherBased Mode is definitely for the synchronous sessions. If you've got a blended situation where you have students who are at home and students who are in school at the same, and they're all joined live, you can certainly use it that way. The other option is that you can also use that TeacherBased Mode. And one of the things I love about Formative is it makes it so easy to differentiate. If I have students who are going to be in class with me and other students who are going to be at home, I can assign this in TeacherBased Mode for just those students who are going to be in my class. Oh, actually, I take that back. Nope, for TeacherBased Mode, it's going to be for everyone. So if I wanted to ever turn on student-paced mode and chunk it for just some students, I could do that here. Great question. All right, well, I want to be respectful of your time. We are a little bit over, so I want to show you a couple of things real quick. First of all, up in the top right corner of Formative, up here, there's a little question mark. You can click on that. And our Help Center is here, and our Help Center is where I was pulling those articles from tonight. So if you are a world language teacher and you type in world languages, you are going to see a tips for world languages teachers. If you type in math, you're going to see tips for math teachers and so forth. If you are trying to figure out how to do videos, how to add a video, and you type in video, you're going to see how you can do some of that. So our help articles are a great place to visit, real easy to get to just through that question mark. We also have some other webinars coming up at the end of this month, and every month after we have additional webinars. You can always find that at training.formative.com. So we've got some more coming up this month that you can register for. If you've never taken the beginning course, you can do so here, and our recorded sessions are down below. I hope that this session this evening has been really helpful for you. This code right here will be emailed to you tomorrow as well, but if you'd like to fill it out tonight, you can. Filling out this survey is what enables us to send you the certificate at the end of the month for attendance that you can use for credit at your school. We enjoyed having you. Thank you so much for your time tonight, and I hope that this has been helpful.